SinCityCustomSuits.com.
I am Sheldon, the owner of Solid Motor Cars. I've spent over 30 years in the retail car business. It is all about the vehicles, but more than that, it's about the people. And my team and I are proud to bring to you what we believe is the finest experience in buying a pre-owned car. With great credit, we can get super low interest rates. But if you've had some challenges, we're experts in that field, and we can get almost anybody approved. Come down to Solid Motor Cars and take a look at our vehicles. They come with a 6-month, 6,000-mile warranty. So when you get a vehicle from Solid Motor Cars, you can feel confident that that vehicle is a quality, properly reconditioned vehicle that will serve you and your family for years to come. So for all your automotive needs, whether it's a new car, truck, or SUV, or if it's repairs, service, and maintenance, Solid Wheels, solid deals, solid people. Coming down to meet the crew. My name's Sheldon. I'm the owner here. I'd love to help you any way that I can.
3024 East Fremont Street, 702-820-1444.
Live from Las Vegas, this is the Wayne Coy Show.
Hey, it's the weekend. Welcome to it. Feel Good Friday in every way, shape, and form. We told you yesterday that we had hopefully a nice surprise for you, and I wasn't sure if it was going to work out or not, but I'd read this article all about the Grateful Dead in a movie that was made 25 years ago, and I got to admit, I'm first to raise my hand here. Look at that. See, I'm raising. Just never really got into the band. I think they were a little bit before me, but how can I say that when 14-year-old kids are Grateful Dead fans? That's just, it's a misstatement. So I felt like it's only appropriate if we are going to acknowledge the phenomenon that is being a Deadhead all these years later. Let's talk to the biggest Grateful Dead fan that I know, and you'll probably ever meet, especially on the radio. He knows his stuff. He is Grateful Don Potter. Hello, sir.
Hey there, Wayne. How's it going?
How are you? You doing good?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you. I got a bad case of the hiccups, though. I've had them for 3 days. I don't know what that's about.
Well, I was hoping your pizza would get rid of those, but not. No.
Pizza did the job on everything else, but the I don't know. Anyway,
hiccups.
Good to see you. Wow,
hey man, it's good to
are.
see you too. Yes, and so for a little bit of background, Don and I shared a studio and a show for a while. Like
that's
right,
a
long while, right?
Yeah, we did.
I mean, we were in the San Francisco Bay Area together on KKIQ and KKDV radio. And then Don, you moved out or up, I should say, to Northern California, like way up there, like near Redding.
I'm up in the Redding area. Correct.
Yeah. You and Sue.
The North State.
And both of you are huge Grateful Dead fans. So let's get right to it. Why? Please explain why there's this big attraction for this group of guys from San Francisco that haven't, Jerry Garcia's been gone for a long time.
That is an amazing phenomena in itself, for sure. Of course, I saw the Grateful Dead beginning in 1973. I was turned on to the Grateful Dead. I see your reunion Beatles there. Yeah. Anyway, I started after seeing them in 1973 the first time, and then I saw them again in 74 when they had the big wall of sound, and it just blew my mind. And I said, okay, wherever these guys are playing, I'm going to be there. And of course, many, many years later, 95, we lost Jerry, of course. And as you alluded to, the phenomena still grows. I mean, Jerry's been gone, I'm not going to do the math, whatever that is, almost 25 years or so, 20 years, something. I don't know. She's long time. And a lot of different bands have come and gone that have carried the torch. Dead and Company is the latest, featuring Bob Weir and John Mayer. They're doing the final tour this summer. But it's amazing, Wayne.
To see, the spirit kind of continuing. And then John Mayer, I mean, comparatively, compared to the other guys that are playing there, he's just a baby.
Right.
But he's a virtuoso. The guy's one of the greatest guitar players I've ever been exposed to.
He is very amazing. Yes. Well, I think what you're saying is that these younger people are coming on board. And excuse me with my hiccups, but Bob Weir had a vision where he was looking at the band. He wasn't there, but all these other people were, and like other people had come in and taken over. So like, John Mayer and then other people are coming in. There's all these other bands. Joe Russo has a band called Almost Dead, or, so there's so many different splitters of bands that are taking off. And I think I'm pretty convinced that long after the original members are gone, that this music will still find a place, and there'll be different interpretations as continues right now and to this day.
Yeah. So you are not alone in the sense that you would pack up the van and head out to a show or two or three or a summer's worth. People travel to see the Grateful Dead, and I know since then Fish and Pearl Jam, but truthfully, the Grateful Dead were the first band to have a following like that, where people would just travel with them wherever they went. They would go. It's like
right.
an extended family thing. It's cool.
Well, Jerry Garcia compared it to running away with the circus. The young kids there weren't any more adventures in America. I mean, really, you can't ride the rails too much anymore, as in, on the road and the Beat Generation and all that. So the kids followed the Grateful Dead, and they would have their adventures. I mean, they would be talking about it to this day. Remember that time we got stuck on the side of the 95 and we almost didn't make it to Wisconsin to see you, but then Jerry came out, he broke out with, oh man, it was so cool. It's like war stories,
And it is key that you say the word man as much as you possibly can. I've noticed.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. You're over there, man. We saw him, man. And just so you know, Don's got allergies and I mean, not allergies, but hiccups. And I've got allergies. So if you see me doing this, it's not the 80s. Okay?
Yeah, geez.
I've just got, my eyes have been watering all day. My nose has been running.
Oh, man.
Welcome
it's
to
been
the
a wet winter. So a lot of that pollen, everything's up in the air.
Yeah. So tell me about your first experience, but beyond that, kind of when you knew, okay, I'm a Grateful Dead head. When did it go from just sort of, I like the band to I'm a part of their DNA? Because you are.
Okay. Well, the second show I saw, which I said was 1974, May 25th at UCSB in Santa Barbara. And I was floating. I was on air, driving home. My car broke down. My wife, my young wife, and my 1-year-old baby, we were stranded on the side of the road. Here's my story. Here's just like the story. It's like,
oh, wow.
And I didn't care. I was like, oh, well, man, it was so great. We had so much fun. Grateful. I'm going to go. Where's the next show? Oh. But the thing is, what happened is in 1974, I saw him again at the Hollywood Bowl. And then come around October, they played a series of shows at Winterland called The Last Ones. They stopped playing. All of a sudden, they brought me in. I'm like, I got to see this band wherever they play. And they said, we're not playing anymore.
Wow.
And so I'm like,
what brought that on? Was like somebody
kidding
me? Or how could it
be
the last one?
In 1974, they were touring with the Wall of Sound, which is a phenomenon in itself, one of the wonders of rock and roll. But it practically bankrupted them. It was just too expensive to try to keep it up. And so they had to take a time out, basically. They didn't know if they'd be back. None of us did. None of the fans did. But they took a little break from 74 to, they came back in 76.
They took a 2 year, no recording in that time period at all?
Well, they did a lot of individual stuff. They had just started their own record company. So they were doing individual bands. So during that time, as I'm becoming a Deadhead, as you asked, how did that happen?
Yeah.
I didn't have the Grateful Dead to go see, but Jerry was playing, down the street in Huntington Beach at the, the Golden Bear, or you go see Kingfish, which was Bob Weir was playing with, or you'd see Keith and Donna band. So that's kind of what kept it going during that period. And then finally they got tired of being retired and said it was too much work, and so they went back on the road.
Too much work to be retired. And you were very fortunate in that you lived in California because
Yes.
they being Northern Californians, it was easier probably for them to go pick up a gig someplace locally, right? Rather than hit the road. Meaning if you were a Milwaukee-based Grateful Dead fan, those 2
Right,
years
a little tougher. A little
pretty
tougher.
barren, I would imagine. Yeah.
Right. I think they did start out in Oregon, though, their first when they first head out in
Okay.
76 after their hiatus, they called it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was lucky enough to be in the Bay Area because, I mean, the Grateful Dead go on hiatus in October of 74. And I think that same week, Jerry's playing down at the Keystone, you know. So,
Wasted
I mean,
zero time.
there's no way it could stop him from playing. So if you lived in the Bay Area, you were lucky. You could see the boys.
Tell me about, I don't know. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, I don't know a lot about this band. So tell me about the attraction, or not the attraction, but the talent that was possessed by Jerry Garcia and why he's such an icon to this day.
Well, I think Jerry seems to be the focal point for anybody who's not that familiar with the band, but the whole band itself is very extremely talented and all coming from such different genres, really. Bob Weir, kind of a folky. Jerry kind of came out of the folk scare as well. Phil Lesh, their bass player, was very avant-garde, classical. Wrote orchestrations for 4 orchestras at a time. I mean, just a genius. Mickey Hart, world music.
Anytime you say avant-garde, I have to share the George Harrison line, which is avant-garde a clue.
Very good.
Avant-garde a clue. I think he said that about Yoko. Anyway, back to the mix, right. Grateful Dead. But again, the leader of the band was Jerry, right?
Jerry, of course. And his background goes back to the folk songs and things like that. Played banjo for many, many years. Came up through the coffee houses in Palo Alto and met up with his friends David Nelson and all these guys that just hung around. And then one New Year's Eve, Bob Weir was walking down an alley in Palo Alto and heard some banjo music, and he knocks on the door, and Jerry was there waiting for some students he was supposed to give guitar lessons to. Bob reminded him it was New Year's Eve. He didn't think his students were coming, so they just grabbed some of the instruments in the music show store there and did a little jam. I think it was Pigpen that was with them too.
Pigpen,
and so they
keyboard player.
Pigpen is Ron McKernan. Pigpen, pretty much the original member of the Grateful Dead, who was their keyboard player and white blues guy. His father was a disc jockey on soul music station in East Palo Alto.
Okay.
And so he had the goods as far as the blues go. So he and Jerry and Bob said, "Hey, we got enough stuff. Why don't we put together a little jug band or something?" So they put together Mother McCreary's Uptown Jug Champions. And then they decided, after watching the Beatles' Hard Day's Night, they said, that looks like a heck of a lot of fun. We need to go electric. And so Pigpen's the one who really urged them to get the electric guitars out. And
so they dumped the acoustics and immediately kind of like Bob Dylan plugged in.
Pretty much, yeah. They were, like most of those bands in the beginning, they were a blues band, But then something happened that probably changed everything. There was this author that was holed up in Palo Alto who had just finished his big novel, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and had made quite a bit of money with that. And his name was, as you said, Ken Kesey. Yeah. And a little bit older than the guys in the band, but they started hanging out. And then, as you probably have heard, Kesey did his little trip across the country in his magic bus, the further bus, blowing people's minds and traveling to the World's Fair in New York. And timeline is a little fuzzy right now, but when they get back and they start these house parties called the acid tests, Now this is pre-66, so in California, LSD was still legal. So they'd have these parties, which were hosted by none other than Owsley Stanley, who was the chemist who provided all of the Kool-Aid, if you will, which was their parties. The electric Kool-Aid acid tests was what they'd call them, and the Grateful Dead became the house band for Kesey's parties.
Okay,
and
so were they partaking as well? I'm only going to assume.
Yes. Oh, yes. Everybody paid their $1. Everybody, even the band, paid their $1, got their little cup of Kool-Aid, and they were in a nice, safe place. They didn't go anywhere. So, and everybody had a great time. The band would play if they wanted to, and they played if they were too high, they didn't play. They weren't forced to. But out of that whole thing came the Grateful Dead concert motif, which is kind of way it is up to, even to today. It's like going to a modern acid test in a sense. You got that's where all the light shows began. That's where all the, all that stuff was new back then.
Sure. And still, even the new bands use, I'm not going to say they use acid, but they use they use light shows and lasers.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Big things going on behind the band, and the Grateful Dead pretty much started that. Yeah, were they called the Grateful Dead originally, or did they have a different name?
Well, they came as I mentioned. They started up as the Mother McCree's Uptown Jug Band Champions. That was the
name. Okay, got you. All right.
And then I think they went through several names. I mean, they went through all kinds of names. And then they came up with the Warlocks, and they were the Warlocks for quite a while.
It's kind of a cool name.
Yeah. But they found out that there was another band called Warlocks. In fact, a band on the East Coast, New York, which ended up being the, not New York Dolls. No, it was, anyway, my mind is not thinking right. But anyway, Warlocks, they figured out there was already a band. Okay. So we got to come up with a new name. So they're coming.
How did they come up with the Grateful Dead? What was the story behind the name?
Well, they're sitting in one of the band members' apartment, and they're trying to figure out a name. Garcia looks at, there's a dictionary sitting there, and his thumb, big fat thumb, goes in. He lands right on it and says, Grateful Dead. And they all just went, and they freaked a little bit. It's like, whoa, there was just so much energy in that name. Most of them hated it. I think Bob Weir hated it. Most of them hated it, but Jerry goes, Grateful Dead. So they decided it's going to be Grateful Dead. Well, one of their first concerts was a benefit for Bill Graham, for the mime troupe. Bill Graham says, you're not calling yourselves the Grateful Dead. There's no way we're going to put that on the marquee. You can call yourselves anything, but not the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. So what did he come up with?
Well, he thought it was formerly the Warlocks, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think it stuck. The name stuck.
I think Bill was wrong in this case. He wasn't wrong about a lot, but he was wrong.
Might have been. It does have enough mystery about it. I mean, my first impression seeing the Skulls and Roses and Grateful Dead was kind of, and I think a lot of people are put off by that, and maybe misunderstand that maybe it's something different, like maybe it's darker and heavy metalish or whatever, which, it's
not
genre too. Not at all. Not at all. It's Americana, if anything. It's probably the most American thing going, but it's a mix of everything.
You got Bob's Big Boy and the Grateful Dead.
And Coca-Cola.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Or in this case, Coke Zero, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, I see. Yes.
A little product placement goes a long way, Don. I won't.
As they say. Good. As they say, when you're around Deadheads or that, don't drink anything in any open containers.
Well, the good news is we're doing this via technology, so I don't have to worry about
being
sneaky. Right. So how long until you, and I'm only assuming here, but how long until you decided, well, if you can't beat them, join them. I guess I need to be in that frame of mind as well. So did you partake?
I take the fifth on that.
Okay.
I took it more than 5 times though, maybe 10, 20. I don't know. Yeah. What are you saying?
He's talking about. Yeah. Oh, and
no, actually, you know why Deadheads dance like this?
Why is that?
it's to keep the music out of their eyes.
Well,
Yeah,
they do,
maybe.
they do. I watched the clips from back in the 60s, and I don't know how many of those shows were Grateful Dead shows, but they're 60s shows because the clips are vintage. And the women, especially the women, are dancing exactly like you were just now.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
the
is like
it's
they're
the
going to
hop.
touch something. Well,
Yeah,
those were crazy times, right? And I'm sure a lot of people, I mean, I'm sure that some people didn't make it through, but I bet a lot of people are now looking back going, I can't believe I did that and I survived. I got through it. Right?
Well,
you're taking the fifth, so that's okay.
I can't speak for anybody else, but you know, a lot of people, that is a lifestyle. So it seems like there is a resurgence in the psychedelic scene these days.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, that's a whole nother subject. But certainly when you talk about the Grateful Dead, you definitely talk.
It's hard not to, you know, combine the two. So who was first to drop acid? Was it the Grateful Dead or the Beatles?
Probably the Beatles.
Okay.
I'm sure probably the Beatles. Although there's a little crossover in there. I think Ozzy might have been friends with the Beatles, and there was that, you know, Ozzy being the sound man for the Grateful Dead and also the chemist who pretty much turned the whole 60s on, really 67. Summer of Love.
If you've seen the movie, it's Walk Hard, Dewey's story.
Oh, yes.
You know, he goes, can I go drop acid with the Beatles? Yeah. So anyway, you know, survivors. So that brings us to
kids, don't try this at home. You don't know what's out there these days. Okay.
I would be afraid to do anything like that these days.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about, well, they never had really, you know, in the radio sense, they weren't on the top 40. That's for sure. Right.
No.
I mean, eventually they had one song, because I remember we used to have to play it on your birthday.
Touch of Grey.
Actually, I kind of like that song, Touch of Grey. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
So that was really their only, that and Truckin', right? Were there two?
Truckin', yeah, it was #1 in Turlock. As Bob refers to it on the Europe 72 album. They loved them in Turlock, No, they had a bona fide hit in the 80s, 87 with Touch of Grey.
Touch of Grey.
Yeah. And it was kind of a curse in a sense, in that this is when MTV was really big, back when MTV actually played music videos.
They did?
They had yeah, they did. Let me tell you, Wayne, come around here. Let me tell you a little story. They
Buggles.
Right. But they had a video for the Touch of Grey that they played nonstop, and they had the Day of the Dead, and it just became huge. And so all these new people were coming into the scene, and it couldn't hold it. The environment of a Dead concert could not handle the influx of all these people. A lot of people came without tickets, and so it caused a lot of problems. There was gate crashers. Summer of '95, the last Grateful Dead tour was, they referred to it as the tour from hell, in that there was just so many people that were coming aboard that really they hadn't been brought up in the scene, and they hadn't been taught etiquette. You know, etiquette.
Is that a thing? Dedicate? It's a
kind of
thing.
is. I mean, you know, there's a way you take care of each other. You're responsible, and a lot of people hadn't gotten that yet, and so a lot of people would show up and they'd be there without tickets, and it got to be ugly. It was too bad.
Wow. And
Same
Jerry had passed at that point, or no?
No, this is just prior before he passed. But I look at it as a kind of a microcosm of the hate back in the Haight-Ashbury, you know, when the Dead were still fairly local people in '67, prior to that even, because the Summer of Love was '67, but the real Summer of Love was before that. '67 was when Time Magazine took and exploited everything, and that's when everything went crazy. Same thing. Hate was a nice, beautiful scene, you know, paradise, you know, utopia. And, you know, the Grateful Dead concerts and the touring and everything was idyllic for a while and beautiful. It was a wonderful thing. And then it exploded and it just got crazy.
Well,
Garden of Eden got stampeded.
By the way, I wanted to congratulate you for getting rid of your hiccups. So you,
Thank God. Finally,
I was feeling for you because I've had them before, and they're no fun. But I think
it's the worst.
See, all you needed, if somebody says, "How do you cure the hiccups?" You can say, "Talk about the Grateful Dead on the Wayne Coy Show." That's how you do it.
Well, you certainly got my. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you have the time to hang through a break here and come back and let me ask you a few more questions?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Because I'm really enjoying this conversation. It's great when you don't know about something and you get to talk to somebody who knows everything about something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Jerry and Jesus, get me going. I got it all.
Okay. I love it.
What do you
all right,
want to know?
We'll take a break and pay the bills here for a sec. But when we come back, more with Don Potter, Grateful Don, talking Grateful Dead on the Wayne Coy Show.
Hi there, this is Kirby Schofield, Schofield Realty here in Las Vegas. Real estate is always changing, be it a buyer's market, a seller's market. At Schofield Realty, it's your market. Buying or selling, we have the team and the tools to work the market so it works for you. We are excited that we're on the Wayne Coy Show. Our results blessed us with the Zillow Flex partnership roughly about 2 years ago due to our consistent conversion and customer service scores. With conversion, that means we can close. And with our customer service scores, you know you're going to get the best service possible. We're always looking for agents, led by mentorship, resources, and experience. We are your guide. Find us, kirby4u.com. That's KIRBY, the number 4, the letter U.com. Kirby4u.com or call 702-766-9538. Again, 702-766-9538.
Hey, listen to this. Share Life Vacations has a special treat for you. It's a free 3-day, 2-night getaway to either magical Orlando or exciting Las Vegas. It's your choice. Absolutely no strings attached. Share Life will also include a second vacation to your choice of over 30 additional popular resort destinations. Now, we can't give everyone a fantastic prize package like this, so to make it fair, we're going to ask you a trivia question. You get it right, you'll win it all. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. This movie is about a British Secret Service agent who is frozen in time in the 1960s. Was that movie Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery? Press 1. Diamonds are forever. Press 2. Lethal Weapon. Press 3. Got it? Well, then call 855-301-8586. 855-301-8586. That's 855-301-8586.
Live from Las Vegas, this is the Wayne Coy Show.
Digging it on a Friday night. Learning stuff, man. That's what we're doing. We're all going to Rock and Roll College of Knowledge when it comes to the Grateful Dead. I don't know anybody that knows more about that San Francisco band than our guest here this evening, and happy to have him on the show. Longtime friend Don, we'll call him Grateful Don because that's his name on the radio. Grateful Don Potter.
Hey,
you're living up in Northern California, as you said, somewhere near Redding. Do you like that area of the country?
I do. Oh, am I on? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
yes, I do.
I got you.
I do. When it's not 115 degrees, of course, it gets very hot here. Of course, I think where you are, it's pretty hot too. Yes.
Oh yeah, 115. That's nothing to us.
Yeah, right. So this is right now the most beautiful time of the year. It is so gorgeous.
Yeah. Is it?
Took a nice drive and saw some beautiful. They're calling it the because of all the rains, a lot of the flowers, just amazing. Super bloom or something.
Sure.
It's crazy.
Now, when you get out, do you wear, because the Grateful Dead are famous merchandisers. A lot of people don't realize. I remember you loaned me a book once that was about marketing.
Oh, marketing. Mm-hmm.
And
I never got it back.
Do I still have your book?
I think I said you could keep it.
Oh, okay. Whoops. Hey, live, man.
Hey, wait, where's my book?
Do I really still have it? If I do, it's in storage. I'm sorry. But I did read it, and it was a very good book, and it talked about how the Grateful Dead sort of mastered the ability to figure out who their audience was and the desire to identify, to lock in with that band and kind of show the world their affinity for the Grateful Dead with all things Grateful Dead. So the tie-dye and the t-shirts and I mean, you are sitting in a room right now where I wish the folks could see it. I mean, I guess we can kind of see it there behind you, but you're in the famous Dead room. You are surrounded by Grateful Dead stuff.
Well, I am. I'll give you a little secret. It's all in boxes, Wayne, because I'm like you. I've been moving, and so the Dead room's is in between. But I do have Jerry representing us here. But yeah, it's very sad. Dead room is on hiatus. We're taking a break, but it'll be back.
We'll anyway at some point. Yeah, the story of the well, not just the story, but the pictures and the video of I've got them of the Dead room. I was blown away.
Yeah.
And I thought you still had it because all I can see is a little Dead.
I do. It's just not on display. It's in boxes right now.
Right. Do you wear a Grateful Dead shirt every day of your life?
Pretty much, probably. Yeah, because I can.
How many do you own?
I wish you could see the closet. It's a double closet and it's full. I can't get one more in there. It's all, and they're all hanging.
Give me a number.
A t-shirt. Oh my God. And the ones that are just hanging, it's got to be, 200. And then, I got boxes of them. Just crazy. Yeah.
So would it be every time you went to a show, you'd have to buy a shirt?
Oh, sure. Got it. Yeah. I enjoy it. And in fact, my very first Grateful Dead shirt, I remember wearing it and it got reaction. People go, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah.
And so
it's like almost like I hate to use the term, but it's kind of like a gang sign, really. I mean,
a little bit. Yeah. Right.
You're part of my family. We connect.
Right. Well, same thing with the Dead sticker on the Cadillac, or in my case, the Camry. People, you're driving down the road and they see, "Hey, dude, hey, all right, Jerry." So yeah, we're everywhere. And it is nice to, to kind of get a little wink, and identify. But
I think that to a degree with the Raiders. The Raiders, right?
It's
Raider Nation. And so no matter where I'm at in the world.
You're proud of your boys.
Well, I was. We sort of
well, I'm talking about my boys. I won't get into the Raiders.
Yeah, your boys. See, that's the beauty of it, is that
they always win.
No matter what, every game it's a win. Yeah, that's
cool. They've had some seasons that were better than others.
What's the quintessential Grateful Dead, if you had to put it together for the uninitiated folks that never heard the band ever? If you had to put together like a top 5, these are the 5 songs you've got to listen to understand what the Grateful Dead are all about, what would they be?
Sure. Start with the Warner Brothers catalog, then go into Arista, and then go into the Dick's Picks series, followed by the Dave's Picks series, and any of the box sets that come along. Start there and you'll be good.
In other words,
listen to everything.
Yeah.
No, where would you start? God, that's, okay. All right. This is what I tell everybody. Get American Beauty and Working Man's Dead, 2 albums that they had really shifted gear from their really psychedelic, crazy, unapproachable for many people into a more laid back, acoustic, Bakersfield type, country feel. And it was more accessible. They actually had hits. That's where Truckin' came from on American Beauty.
Okay.
Take those 2 albums and then you can go from there. But, the songwriting of Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia, it's right up there with Lennon and McCartney. I know that's almost blasphemous to you, but they, maybe not to the world per se, but to those of us who know and love the Grateful Dead,
sure,
Garcia and Hunter is, you don't get much better.
How did you get a Grateful Dead radio show back in back when you got a Grateful Dead radio show? How did it evolve? How did you get it in the first place?
I've had a couple. I did one in San Jose called the Dead Zone back in the 90s, just before Jerry passed. And then after he passed for a while, I kept it going. And then I did a brief show in San Francisco called On the Bus. And then most recently, I'm doing a show called Sunday Night Dead that I've been doing for a little over 6 years now. That we've been doing every night or every Sunday for
you host this by yourself?
I do. Yes.
All right.
Sunday Night Dead with Grateful Dawn, 3 hours of the
Love
Grateful Dead. What's so fun is, as a radio guy, when I first got into this crazy business, I would play Grateful Dead on the radio, sneak it in, and get in trouble from the program director, of course. But now I've got my own show. I can play whatever I want.
Hey, Don, that's one thing that you and I can say we now have in common, and that is that we have both decided to sort of do it our way,
Right.
Yeah, and it's
Exactly.
I guess
It's great.
It's because we can, first of all, because the technology really didn't exist before, or the ability to, in our case, do this not just here locally in Las Vegas, but all around the world. That wasn't something you could do before, but you can now. And I'm the biggest cheerleader for our medium, radio, but I just believe that over the years, it's lost some of its luster. It certainly isn't the fun place that it used to be. So I vowed that when we put this thing on the air, that we were gonna have fun again, and we have. Every night's fun, man. We have a great time.
On.
Yeah,
that's great.
And the guests all say they've had fun. So I think if the guests have fun and the host has fun, then by and large, the listeners and viewers should have fun as well. So that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate.
I'm sorry.
I just appreciate you inviting me on. This is great.
Oh, well, I appreciate you. You did the show for a while though with a co-host, didn't you?
Yes, we did a show called, like I said, On the Bus with Grateful Dawn and Marla Davies, who is another radio veteran from the Bay Area. We called her Sugar Mag Marla.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of similar to this, in that we were on TV and radio. We called it T Radio V. And
right.
So
you were ahead of the pack.
Yeah, it's very similar to this format right here. Very, very cool.
Yeah. Well, it's working for me. I've got a innate curiosity about this band, and also, after reading that article that I shared with you, here's a movie that's 25 years old, and now they're bringing it back, and it's all about the Grateful Dead and their following, and Fish and their following, and the jam band thing in as a whole. And I guess Pearl Jam would be part of that conversation now too.
Circle of Fire, right?
Yeah. And had you seen it, or you hadn't seen it?
I have not seen it. I'm just now getting reacquainted with it, but it is amazing. I mean, it's just amazing that this time it's like the Grateful Dead have finally got respect. They really have gotten respect. I mean, it's taken a long time, because I don't think anybody really, they just thought they were a bunch of dirty hippies and acid casualties and whatnot. But I think if, they've been around for so long, and here Bob Weir, one of the remaining members of the Grateful Dead, doing great Dead music with orchestras. I mean, they're orchestrating this music.
Yeah.
I mean, and so many, like I mentioned earlier, so many different people are taking the music and interpreting it their way, and so
it just keeps reinventing, really.
Yeah.
I mean, just when you think you've heard it all or seen it all, at least I'm speaking of my Beatles experience. They find a way to redo it and throw it back out, and you're like, well, that never existed before. Now I want that too. You just never get tired of it.
I think, you were talking a little bit about marketing with the Grateful Dead, and they were way ahead of themselves. And one of the best things that they ever did was to allow their fans to record the music, to record their concerts. Now, their record company thought they were, I can't say it, crazy, but they did it. I mean, they allowed it, and those tapes got out to people who had never heard of the Grateful Dead. They, oh, this is great. Their brother, their kid, at college dorm, they'd have tape. Oh, check it out. And that was the best marketing ever. And the other thing is, to this day, because of that, we have recordings pretty much almost all of the concerts that they've ever done, which is almost 1,300 concerts. So
now the tapers, oftentimes, because it was encouraged and it was allowed, they didn't have to sneak anything in, right? I mean, they could say, hey, this is my gear. And I remember reading that the quality of the recordings got better and better and better, to the point where the label was like, well, why would we ever put out a live album when there's all these tapes out there, right, that are just great?
Well, originally it wasn't quite as freeform as that. People were very creative in getting their equipment in, but after a while, the band just said, "Okay, all right, we give up." And they made
it's similar to. I was going to say it's similar to now the bands that say don't have your cell phone at the show. That it still exists, but mostly now what's happened is the artists have put up their hands and said, "Okay, there's really not a lot we can do to control this.
Right.
We understand that they're going to record while we're playing." And
Bob Dylan had everybody lock them up before the show.
Well,
we locked our phones up.
And the audience locked Bob up, and that was just crazy.
Real quick. So they recorded all their concerts. So now today, here in 2023, we are still getting live Grateful Dead releases every, I get 4 shows, complete shows a year because I have a subscription, and there's no end to it. And it's just amazing. And how lucky are we as fans? I mean, at least I chose the right band. I mean, I don't know if Alice Cooper fans are getting that many live concerts,
Yeah, I doubt it. And so when you listen, though, I would think that once you hear the song, you've kind of heard the song live, especially if you've heard it a couple of times. Or were they always willing to just go ahead and take a little run and make it different and unique each time?
Pretty much different every time. I mean, you take the form of the song and you'd have the verse and the chorus and the bridge or whatever. But then it's the places in between where they would be able to improvise and take off into different directions, and it would be different. That's why we went to every show. You never knew. There was never the same show twice. Set lists were always different. They didn't have a set list. They came out, they played. They didn't know what they were going to play.
That's cool. I mean,
it is cool.
It is just cool. So why do you think it is that Fish and Pearl Jam have similar kinds of we're going to travel and see them everywhere they play audiences? Is there something about those bands and their music that does that?
I'm not as as big a fan of Fish, but I do understand their comparativeness to the Grateful Dead in that they play different every night too. I mean, they're constantly changing up their set list, changing up the way they play the songs. There's a similar free-form feel, and if you will, hippiedom of the Fish family there, that goes along with that. So they're compared that way. Musically, they're not the same, other than that they're improvisational.
Yeah. But it is kind of next gen, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Those kids at their age are doing sort of what you did at your age.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's so great. And then even going to see Dead and Company and things like that, you still see young people that were never around. They weren't alive when Jerry was around, and yet they're as much a Deadhead as anybody. It's a feeling. It's a lifestyle. It has nothing to do with Jerry or how many times you saw the Grateful Dead, or if you even saw the Grateful Dead. You can be a Deadhead without even seeing them.
Yeah.
It's just a lifestyle, basically.
And there isn't this elitist, hey, you know what? You weren't there, so you don't get it.
If there are, then they need to be slapped, because that's not right. And
I've never seen that. I see the opposite. I see the come on in, the tent's open.
Well, there's idiots everywhere. So,
Yeah.
So there's some people that are just, whatever.
Now, when you met,
come on in, there's room for all of us.
When you met your lovely wife Sue, was she a Grateful Dead fan already, or did you make her one?
No, not at all. She'd never seen the Grateful Dead. I took her to see Jerry Garcia at the Warfield for her first show, and had a really good time and enjoyed it. And then we went and saw the Grateful Dead for New Year's Eve. I think it was '87 at Oakland Coliseum, and she enjoyed it. Yeah, she's on the bus. She came aboard pretty quick.
Well, I think she's maybe not to your level. I don't know anybody who is.
No, she's not that.
She appreciates them, though.
She loves the Grateful Dead. She does.
Yeah, and it's a thing between the two of you. You go to the shows together. I think.
Yeah, we enjoy it together. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Family that goes to the.
Your kids, your grandkids, are they? At least, let me just speak from my experience. My kids, who you've met, they are all to some degree brainwashed.
Okay? Yeah,
they kind of didn't have a choice. Ian likes the Beatles because he had no choice.
Raiders.
Gavin likes the Raiders or the A's because he had no choice.
A's.
On down to that. Savannah, Raiders, A's, I mean, so what about you and your Grateful Deadness? Did you pass that on?
No, my kids are into cow sills.
Oh, I hope they hear that. They're into the cow sill.
My son was, he went to the day I became a Deadhead. He was there in Santa Barbara, 1974. He was 1 year old. He was there. So he
probably doesn't remember it.
Oh no, of course not. But he likes the Grateful Dead a lot. The rest of my kids, not so much, or my daughter doesn't care. She's been, but not so much. She didn't care. That's all right.
Yeah, Dad, that's
I still love her.
You'll still let her in the tent. That's okay.
Yeah.
No, you're keeping yourself busy beyond the Grateful Dead. I know you've been acting quite a bit, and tell me about that, the acting career.
Well, just finished last few years. Did quite a few productions up here in the North State. Doing some musicals and things like that. Taking a little break from theater. Actually working on a movie right now.
How about
so that's
that?
kind of fun. We're going to be doing a big shoot here at the end of the month. 3 weeks straight. We're going to be filming this thing and try to getting it out. And I'll tell you more about it as we get closer to releasing it.
I love it. And you started
thing.
Back in college and even high school. You were always performing on stage. So the
theater,
idea. Yeah. So I'm saying coming back to theater for you was like a homecoming, right?
It has been. It really has. It's been fun. Really great. And such a great community up here. I mean, so many wonderful people. I've hit the gold mine. It's great.
Yeah. And you grew that beard, which you don't seem to need to shake it. Like I noticed all the shows.
Right. This is kind of for the movie, actually. So
oh, is it? Okay.
I'm keeping it for the movie. That's my excuse.
Right. Do you play an older gentleman?
A grumpy old man? Is that? Yeah.
I was trying not to say it, Don, but if you're going to go there, yeah. Are you a grumpy old man?
I am in this movie. Yes, but he does come to the light and turns around, and there's happy endings for everybody.
Get off of his lawn.
Yeah. Pull up your pants.
Well, if you didn't know a lot about the Grateful Dead, hopefully you know more now. What would be the best place to go if you're going to go to a website to suck down some Dead information or to get the music? I guess YouTube, you can find the music, right?
Oh, absolutely. YouTube, they got Grateful Dead channels galore. If you're looking for, the music and CDs and whatnot, there's official dead.net. Jerry Garcia's got his thing, Dead and Company, all of them, it's all out there. Certainly. You'll find it. I got to say real quick. Bob Dylan is in Japan right now. And he's been doing Dead tunes. He did Truckin' the other night. He did Truckin'. And then he also did Broke Down Palace, which is another song off the American Beauty album. Bob Dylan.
See, as much as the Grateful Dead may be an acquired taste, you and I have had this conversation.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole nother subject.
I can hang with the Dead. I'm very interested in learning more about them, and you've played some music for me, and I've gotten into it. But as soon as you go Bob Dylan or Neil Young, I check. Well,
I guess this interview's over.
Yeah, we've got to be trucking. Don Potter. Hey, I love you, man. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you, Wayne.
There he goes. That guy up in Northern California. And again, if you get a chance to hear him on the radio, the show. Oh, I should ask you that before you go. If somebody wants to listen to your show, how do we do it?
Okay. The Sunday Night Dead is on streaming KPIG, KPIG.com.
Okay.
They do charge $5 subscription a month, but it's all kinds of great programming, just like this radio station here. So that's one way of checking it out, or you can get 1 week free. KPIG.com. Sunday night, 6 to 9.
The Sunday Night Dead. Well, there you go. And there's no better host on this planet for all things Grateful Dead than Grateful Don Potter. Have a great weekend, sir.
You too, buddy.
Well, there he goes. Don, one of my favorite people on earth, and I'm so glad we had a chance to kind of get educated with him tonight.
Hi there, this is Kirby Schofield, Schofield Realty here in Las Vegas. Real estate is always changing.
Thank you,
Be it a
Wayne.
buyer's market,
You can hear
a
me.
seller's market. At Schofield Realty, it's your market. Buying or selling, we have